Hello there and welcome. Thank you for tuning us in today. And I hope you have time to stay with me because we're going to talk about something that's important and something that it's an outreach that can save lives and help other people. And I think that's sometimes what we forget about in our own busy world. And perhaps this time of year especially, it's important to think of somebody else, and especially children. And I'm so pleased to have Cathy Farr, who is a foster parent, and Betsy Manning, who is a recruiter for the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program.
Yes.
And we're talking about children and the needs that they have and foster care. And I guess the word kind of scares people.
It does.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you are a foster parent.
I am. Mm-hmm.
But you had children of your own.
I have 3 children of my own, biological children.
Okay, okay. And Betsy, how did you get involved in this?
Well, it's a long story, but I'll make it really short.
Okay.
I used to work in the mental health field, and I worked with a lot of children who had to be placed in foster homes. Yeah. And when that kind of phased out as part of my career, I thought about, well, you know, I'm always putting children in homes. I'd love to figure out how do I find the homes for the children and meet the families that these children are going to. I worked in North Carolina for several years in mental health and doing that type of work. And an opportunity came available with the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program where I could actually be a recruiter and go out and talk to families and screen families and see if they would be a good fit to take in the children who have been traumatized and who are placed in foster care.
And we think about, that's the saddest thing to me, is a child, because they're innocent. They don't cause the problems.
Right.
And yet they receive all the trauma and
Absolutely.
hardship.
Absolutely. Children in foster care are there, no fault of their own. It's because of the caregivers or the people who are charged to make sure that they're safe, maybe in crisis for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and there's a report and then neglect and abuse, and they end up in foster
are
care.
These, how do you find these kids? Your children's, if they've been abused, neglected, and they can be any age, from tiny children to teenagers, I guess.
Absolutely. What happens is children in foster care are in the custody of DSS, whatever state that is. DSS calls our agency for placement options. Our agency works with therapeutic level children, which are children who have developmental delays, who have learning disabilities, may have medical needs, who have a mental health diagnosis. We also do traditional foster care, which are children that may not have been assessed to have that level of care. And we provide the foster homes for those children to go into temporarily.
But these children have not the problems that you mentioned first, but that they have been, through no fault of their own, neglected and abused.
Correct.
And I think that to me is the tragedy beyond anything else, that you take a child, an innocent child, and they're abused. Correct. It can be sexual abuse, it could be physical violence, I guess. Verbal violence.
It can be medically neglect. And then we have some children, again, no fault of their own. If their caretaker may be a grandparent or a great-grandparent, there's no longer to care for them. Sometimes foster care can be an option for them as well.
So, and it can be a permanent thing or it can be temporary.
Yes.
In other words, you can take a child for 6 weeks or 6 months, wherever, to fill the need in that child's life until they have the home to go back to. Hopefully, you try to have it so that the child goes back to its home.
Correct. That's correct. That's the purpose of foster care, to provide temporary care to children in foster care. But sometimes children become available for adoption, parental rights are terminated, and then foster families have an option to apply to adopt children.
Now, you are a foster parent. God bless you. And that takes a lot of courage, because it takes courage to raise your own, much less go out and ask for somebody else's child. That's wonderful. I think you're really doing God's work. But you commit for just, what do? You tell in other words, you would tell Betsy, I can take somebody for 6 weeks or 6 months, or how do you know?
No, you, when the children come in, you have to just wait to see what child you get, and then you go by what their needs are.
Okay.
And most foster parents, whatever that need is for that child, they're gonna stick it out, whether it's 2
Okay.
years, 2 weeks, 9 years, or 9 weeks. It's just whatever the child needs, and we try to work it out with them. But fostering children is not hard. But the first thing you got to
It
have,
isn't?
it's not that hard.
Now tell us about that, because doing your own kids can be hard sometimes.
Well, the first thing you got to do is you have to love children. You
All
have
right.
to. That's a must. That's the number one thing. You have to love children. And you got to look at these children just like they're your own. You can't make a difference. You just got to say, well, this is my child. And whatever his needs are, you got to attend to him just like they was your own child. You can't make no difference. And then you're going to have some success. Now, there's some children, you know, you can't help because their needs has gotten so great. But the majority of them, you can help them. You can help them. It just takes a little time and a little understanding and a little love.
And
And
love, yes.
Yeah, a little love.
Yeah. And I always think we're heading into that special time of the year if a child doesn't have a home.
Right.
You need people right now to step forward?
We do. The process takes 90 to 120 days. So
Oh, my goodness.
you wouldn't be able to help a child
Okay.
this season. But imagine near February, April, being able to take children into your home, because it is a process. We have to do background checks,
I
fingerprints.
was going to say, you have to be very sure
Very thorough.
before you place a child in a home that that home
Absolutely.
is safe.
Right. So it's a process. But yes, we need families immediately to step up to the plate.
What about finances? If somebody out there thinking about it, does money become available to help care for that child, or what?
It does. The state reimburses our families monthly
Okay.
for taking in a foster child, but we have to do our due diligence before we have a foster parent step forward to make sure that they're already financially responsible. Because the last thing we want to do is cause a hardship on a family. If you can't, show proof of income of some type, then that could be a hardship, because you're taking them to therapies, you're going to doctor's appointments, you're going to school meetings, and that can be costly on a family. So you don't have to be rich, but we do have to see that you're financially responsible. But again, the state does supply a monthly
And
reimbursement.
you want to be sure that there's stability there.
Right.
Yeah, because most of these children come from trauma, don't they?
Yes.
Stubborn.
Yes. All of our children have been traumatized in some kind of way. If they've been abused and neglected and they're in the foster care system, there's trauma present.
And who puts a child into foster care?
The
How
court
does that
system.
work?
Yeah, the court system makes that decision. Of course, DSS does their investigations and makes reports, but the court system makes that decision.
So law enforcement plays a part in this too.
Yes, law enforcement may go out to the home. There may be a drug bust, and if there's children involved, a decision has to be made to keep those children safe.
That's the
And
main
if you
thing.
see that on the news, where do you think those children go? Because they don't get to go to Disneyland. They
No,
don't
they
go.
don't go to Disneyland.
They
No,
don't
no.
go to Disneyland. So preparations have to be made to make sure those children are safe.
And if they're of school age, you have to have a home where they can be taken to school. Or,
Yeah, or catch the bus. I mean, they function as any other child that's not
All
in
right.
foster care.
Okay.
And if you decide to become a foster parent, we try to match children who are in your zone, your school zone.
Okay, because that makes it much easier for the child too.
Right. We want to keep them in their original county, at their original schools, their places of worship. That's not always present because we don't have enough homes.
You need homes
Right.
right now.
Right now.
Right now. Okay.
Right now.
So somebody out there, first of all, you said you have to love children.
You have to.
And then you have to have, if you have children of your own, that doesn't exclude the situation.
No. We just ask that you communicate with your family, whether it's children in your home or children who are adults who are outside your home who come and visit. You want to make this a family affair because the support that you will need is so substantial that you can't do it alone. And Ms. Farr, you correct me if I'm wrong, you need the support of your community, your family, people who may see you in the grocery store. It's really a community activity. It's not something you can do alone.
No, well, I don't think anybody can raise a child alone.
I know, yeah.
I don't think so.
I can attest to that.
You need help, regardless of your situation.
Exactly.
You know. And so, Cathy, how did you happen to become a foster parent? And that's a tremendous undertaking.
It is. Well, I became an empty nester. I went to the, and I thought I was sick, but I went to the doctor, and I was explaining to him, I thought, oh, it was just something wrong with me. And he said, well, what's going on? And I told him, and he was asking me all kind of questions. And then he gave me this terminology, and I said, well, what is that? And he told me, he said, well, you just got empty nest syndrome.
The emptiness syndrome.
Empty nest syndrome. And here I was, thought I had a bad illness. And he said, oh, you just need to get you some kids. And so I said, is that all I need? I said, oh, I can do that. So I went home and I talked to my kids, and they said, well, Mama, just get you some children and keep them. Say, find you some children. Say, go to your agency. Well, I didn't know one. So I talked to a girlfriend, and she said, well, I have a cousin that does this. Maybe I'll contact her. And she did, and it led to me right away going to get my license. I started doing that, and I've done it ever since.
Hey, did you commit, we have to go to a break, but did you commit then to a child for a certain period of time? Could you say, I'd rather have a girl or a boy, or I'd rather have somebody 8 years old, or a baby? I mean,
Well, this is what I did when I found out. I had no qualms about I was going to do it. And they said, well, you want to think about it? No, I don't want to think about it. I know this is what I'm going to do.
This is what you're going to do.
Because I just knew I wanted a kid in the house. And then they said, well, what do you want? Well, I was used to boys because I had 3 sons of my own. I said, well, I want little boys. I said, you got boys? And then I said, well, what are your needs? What's your real needs? And at the time, boys were really hard to place. Teenage boys, any boys, 9 years old up was hard to place. And I said, well, I'll take them. I'll take the ones that's hard to place. And he said, you sure? I said, I'm sure. I can do it. And see, I was working. And matter of fact, I just quit work. But all that time, I kept boys, teenage boys.
You are a living saint.
I did.
We're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back. That's just amazing.